All right, guys. Now we're going to show you how to teach your dog out and leave it. And this is going to be after they've learned how to turn off pressure on the training collar or the slip lead, or the e-collar can also be used for this exercise. I'm using Polly's training collar to show you, just because it's the easiest way for me to communicate with her. So it's really important that dogs learn impulse control. So as humans, we need impulse control. If we're always acting on impulses and emotions, that's going to lead us into trouble. It's going to lead us into sin. And dogs are always acting on impulses and emotion. It's going to lead them to sin, and all of us to a death that we are trying to avoid, right? And so we're trying to live in peace, and joy, and happiness, and not the turmoil, which is caused by acting on emotions. So the way we teach leave it is with treats, and so it's the easiest way. So you can use your dog's food, find something that they're motivated for, so starting with your dog in a sit is the best way to do this. So you're gonna wrap the leash and only give them so much leash. You don't want to give them too much leash to be able to get the treat. So when I put this down, this food, I have to give her a command to leave it. Otherwise, she would assume that I'm giving her the food to eat. So I'm going to do that at the same time. And then if she goes for the food, I'm going to give her information here to tell her that I need her to leave it. And I'm just going to tap the line here. And so Polly, leave it. And then when she looks at me, good. And when I want her to be looking to me, then I'm going to reward her. So this is like, again, when we get distracted by things in the world. The devil comes to tempt us with things, and then Jesus says, leave it, follow me, right? You're going to find peace, right? So the devil said, your sheep are going to follow me. And Jesus said, no, my sheep are going to listen to my voice, and they're going to follow me. And so, again, it's really easy for humans and animals to get distracted by things in the world, and so if we just keep our eyes on Jesus, then we're gonna, have peace. And so our flesh is fighting against the spirit. So the Spirit of the Lord, right, is what guides us to peace. But our body, our flesh is always fighting against that. So the things that feel good to us in the world, the body, the flesh wants us to feed that. And so, but by feeding that, we're sinning against God oftentimes. And so it's by resisting that temptation, and fighting against the flesh and following the Spirit of the Lord, and that's where the peace is. And so that's where the blessings of God. So she's not actually going, towards the food, so then I can start dropping it. So this is really important. If people drop food, good girl, she's keeping her eyes on me. If they drop medications, again, something that's going to harm the dogs, they don't know that. And again, it's the humans that don't know that by sinning, they're actually going to cause themselves harm. And there you go, good girl. By making good choices, right? God blesses our life when we're resisting temptations and we're resisting disobedience. So that one rolled towards her. I just gave her a little bit of tap on the line. She says, good, I'm going to stay with you, because she knows that she's getting rewarded by resisting that temptation. I'm going to reward her over here. And that's what God does in our life. So he gives us blessing when we're being obedient. So that's very good, Polly. And, if the dog... if you drop a treat that's too close to them, you put your foot over it so that they can't get the treat. Try not to, drop the treat too close to them when it's too hard for them to resist. So some temptations are going to be too hard for humans and dogs to resist. Again, if you make a mistake, good girl, she's going down. This is a great exercise for dogs that lack impulse control around food. We all have different temptations. So the enemy will come and distract each person with whatever their weakness is. He knows our weaknesses. He knows, but luckily God knows, right? And he equips us with the tools that we need to fight the enemy. But what I'm saying is he knows each person's weakness, and he will come and try to, get them to sin and get them off course. That's what he's got a job to do, and we've got a job to do. Working for the kingdom is to let people know about these tools and, the tools to defeat the enemy. Nobody ever talked to me about this, and again, why I feel so passionate about this project and what we're doing. Because people should be taught tools how to fight the enemy in everyday life. And people should be taught these tools. So that one was tricky, because that one I was actually trying to give to her. When I roll on your hip, Polly, relax. I was trying to give it to her, but it rolled away from her. So the fact that, she yielded to my pressure and didn't get it, I'm going to go ahead and give it to her. And so, again, that was very good, her exhibiting impulse control. God knows our heart. The enemy can hear the words that we speak, but God knows every thought we think and every, thought that we have. So when I learned that it's, very important to clean up our thoughts and get them right. And we're supposed to make every thought obedient to Christ. But the enemy hears our words. And so, again, when you're fighting against things that he comes to tempt you with, it's important just to learn the tricks of the enemy. He's very good at deceit. He's the father of lies. So he'll come with a bunch of lies and, again, temptation to get you off course. And so it's our job to resist the devil, and he must flee. Holly. When we submit to God and we praise and worship God, that's who we follow, then he must flee and leave us alone in our life. So this is very good. She's doing wonderful, and she's, done this exercise before. But now when we go to pick up these, the rest of the treats, that is still not an invitation for her to go after these. So a lot of times, so notice I'm holding her back here. So if she makes a mistake, like, God's always got his hand on us. So if we make a mistake, he's going to do everything in his power to try to warn us and say, hey, get on track. Don't follow the enemy. Don't be making a bad mistake. Don't be sinning, against me. I can give her a treat, I can give her a blessing, but I don't necessarily have to right now. But when I go to pick this up, I'm making sure she does not go, right? This is a safety net here. So again, he's always trying to keep us safe, because God wants us to succeed. He wants us to be happy, safe, peaceful, and living in joy and in communion and relationship with him. And so as I go to pick up, this is a great exercise for impulse control, and it's how we train with the other toys, bones, the other resources, so in life. So it transfers to everything else. So leave it, good girl. So I gave her, now all the treats are picked up, so I've given her the treats. I'm giving her a blessing, reward for leaving that alone. I'm sorry about that, Polly. But this can be transferred to if a dog is staring at a squirrel, or thinking about, being worried about another dog or a human, or whatever they're worried about, or whatever the enemy has come to try to distract them with, right? Then basically you can say, leave it, and you can get them tuned back into you. So once they learn the exercise, it can be transferred to any other scenario in their life, any other distraction in their life that has come to try to distract them. So once they understand leave it, now it can be applied to other things. All right, guys, now we're going to take what we learned with leave it and apply it to how it should be implemented when you're doing a structured play with your dogs. So we recommend that you put up your toys and bones. So you'll see that we have the toys here in a bin, and that it is closed when the dogs are not playing. We keep the toys up, and then we bring them out when it's time for play. The same thing for bones. I recommend antlers, stuff like that was long lasting. Otherwise, rawhides and things like that, dogs can choke on. So, but it's important that those are kept up. I'm bringing it down for demonstration purposes, but normally I would have this up somewhere. I would have it, out of reach for the dog, so that I would bring it out. And I'm going to show you how the leave it is very, very important. So dogs that don't have this ability will oftentimes just make bad decisions when they're playing, when they get overstimulated, or if they have a high value resource, they will accidentally or purposely sometimes put their teeth on people. And this is very dangerous for kids. The amount of dog bites that happen, this was a common problem that we saw every day. All right, so we're going to start with tug, because I feel like that's a good way. Tug is a great game to play with your dog, but just like if you're sitting down to play a board game with your kids, you have to explain the rules. With kids or adults, you have to explain the rules of the game. And if you don't explain the rules, then how is the dog going to know what is legal and what is not? If they take a toy and just run off with it, if she just jumps up and bites this out of my hand, is that legal? Well, no, that would be like a kid jumping up and grabbing something out of your hand. So leave it, right? So if she were to go, she knows this now because we've worked on it, but leave it, Polly, if she were to go towards this, right, I would, that's why I give her the leave it command, so that she exhibits impulse control. And when I'm ready to have her grab the toy and we're going to engage in tug, then I'm going to give her an okay command, and then you're going to see it's a great exercise. There's a misconception about tug not being good for dogs, and it makes them more aggressive. But if you notice dogs anywhere, like if they're in a pack of dogs, a lot of times they play tug. I mean, it's a very natural thing for them to do. So, okay, Polly. Okay. So, and so it's important that even during play, dogs keep their emotions about them, and so people say, well, you can't let your dog win because, they're going to think that, they rule the world. Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but if you've ever played a board game and you never win, well, I don't really think you're going to want to play the game anymore. So the youngest stay. So now, when I say Polly out, I'm going to put a little pressure on the leash. So Polly out, and so she's learned that now, and she's backed off that toy very quickly, which is awesome. And we've also layered on the e-collar to this, and so which also helped in her response time there. But right now we have the training collar on, which is a great tool. You can also start with the slip lead if your dog doesn't need a lot of pressure. But Polly needed more pressure than a slip lead in order to get her to comply. And so just like some humans need more pressure to comply with what God is asking, it's the same thing. And so he uses different tools, different pressure for each of his kids. So leave it. So asking him to sit and then okay. And asking him to leave it at times is great. So now I can let out the excess of the line. I have my hand on the handle here. I don't want her to get tangled, but it's just very important that the dogs stay pretty loose when they're playing, because when dogs, if you've ever seen two guys wrestle around and everything's fine, everything's going good and they're wrestling, and then all of a sudden someone takes it serious, it's like, you need to keep, so this in play, Polly out. Good girl. Sit. It's important for them to stay loose, When things get too serious, too tense, it's not good for anyone's state of mind. People can make bad decisions when they're too tense. Dogs can make bad decisions when they're too intense. So, okay. So it's important. And if two dogs are wrestling, that you can interrupt play. If you can tell them out, and Polly out. Let's see. Polly out. And I didn't give her any pressure that time. So she's operating on the command. So you see, you're adding the commands layered with the tools. Good girl, sit. Good girl, leave it. So one day, you're not to rely on the tools. You're relying on the relationship and the command, right? And so, but the tools are to get you there. And so leave it, leave it. Okay. So now, again, she's learning to respect my voice. And the problem is a lot of dogs have not learn to follow a human. They don't respect humans because humans do not have the tools sometimes to be able to train the dogs to get them to respect them. So they're letting them get away with a lot of disrespectful behaviors. Then the dog doesn't learn to respect the human. So Polly out, right there. Good job. Sit. That's very good. So she's learning to respect when I tell her, like, this is not her toy. If I gave her a toy anytime she felt like it, good girl, a shake off is a good sign there. Good girl, just leave it. If I gave her everything she wanted whenever she wanted it, I would have a disobedient, pushy, defiant dog. And that's the same thing with children. If we got everything we wanted, if I got everything I wanted from God when I wanted it, it would not be good. So I'm grateful for the things that he doesn't give me as well, because then it causes me to be obedient, to get what he has planned for my life. So it is very important that she's obedient and respectful to what I'm asking her to do. And so this is not her toy. This is my toy that I purchased in order to give to her. So the blessings that come from God, he gives us our blessings and he can take them away at any moment. But so that's why it's important to be grateful every day for the blessings God gives us. Right, Polly? Okay. So actually, if we want to get really technical, then God gave us the blessing. God gave us the dog. God gave us this toy. He gave it all to us. So, Polly out. Sit. Good girl. So, and then I can also show you what it looks like if you don't give her a command and, she's just jumping towards the toy. She just assumed that, I was giving her the toy that time. Polly, out. Good job. Sit. This exercise can also be done with a ball, fetch. We demonstrated outdoors for a structured fetch, but this is important to layer this on before you actually go outside and do that. I'm going to toss the toy now and leave it. She's exhibiting great impulse control. I'm going to toss it away from me and have her go get it now. So, Polly, get it. I don't drop the line yet because that just allows the dog to have too much freedom, more than what they're ready for. So it's important, just leave the line in your hand initially when you're first getting the dog to fetch a toy. And so I'm demonstrating with this toy so that a tennis ball doesn't bounce off. So good. And so it's important when you go up that, again, we're going to get to this with bones too, but Polly, out, so right there. So it's important when I go up to the toy that she backs off of that toy, that she takes her teeth away from it, not me going towards the toy, good girl, and trying to take it from her. This is when most bites happen. So people are going up to the dog, Polly, come, there, no, sit, good girl. They're taking a resource away from them. So the dog assumes that now you've given them the toy and that it's theirs. You're letting them play with it, or the bone, which we'll get to. But then you go up to take it, or kids go up to take it. And then the dog is not mentally let go of it. So the dog assumes that that's my resource now and I have a hold of it. So it's very important to teach the dog that when a human goes towards the toy, the bone, the food, anything else, it is your job as a dog. Polly, out, right there, see? Polly, sit. She's learning. She's young, right? Learning impulse control. Just like people, right? There's some things are harder for some people than others. But when a human goes towards that toy or whatever the resource is, it's the dog's responsibility to back off. They are a lesser creature. It's the same thing if God's telling us to do something. We are, He is our God, right? We are to submit to Him, not the other way around. God's not to submit to us, Polly. So, okay. So we're going to demonstrate that again. Actually, I'm going to just throw it for her. Let her get it and, just have a little fun with the resource because she went and got that. Again, it's the same thing with the tennis ball. You don't want to take the toy or the ball away from them too quickly because, again, they'll get more protective of it. And again, who wants to play if they never get a chance to enjoy, the part of the game that, it is for them. And so I'm letting her just enjoy that toy for a bit, and then she's having fun with it, and then you'll be able to see when I go up to it and ask her to remove her teeth. And so Polly, out. So I'm going to make sure before I'm putting pressure here, right, before I grab this. And so I'm watching her. Right, I'm watching her, she's mouthing right there. I'm watching her wrinkles, and making sure that she feels okay about me going to take this toy. And so leave it, Polly. Polly, come. Okay, sit. Okay. All right, so now we're going to demonstrate with a different toy, not as long as a tug. And I will mention that it's important when you are playing tug that the dog does not put their teeth on you. So this can be with a ball, with a toy. Oftentimes, so many times I have dogs jumping up to my hand to grab a toy. Polly, sit. So they can do it with a tennis ball. It's very dangerous, a toy, or a tug. And so if they do it during tug, you can stop the game. You can decide how many times that you want to give them, for making a mistake. They will know if you put pressure on the collar, say no, ouch. They will know that they accidentally put their teeth on you. And then start again. It depends on how hard they put their teeth on you or how many times, and where you might need to take a break and you might need to go through the other training. It might be too overstimulating before you do it again. So we're going to see how she does with another toy. Polly, I know you like this toy. Ready? Yeah, there we go. Good girl. Okay, Polly, out. I'm going to throw it for you. Sit. And hopefully then you can see. Okay. Nope, I think she got her leash in there. Nope. And so now she's chomping on the toy, and you know, she's just gonna, like, there's all kinds of toys that they make for dogs. This is a $90 billion pet industry, you know, but it's important to get, you know, long-lasting toys that they don't chew up and swallow. And again, I'm going to go for this resource. Polly out, and one day, right, the dog's just going to learn. Good girl. She barely needed any pressure, you know, to leave that toy. So Polly, come. Good girl. Good girl. And you can also just give the toy right back to him. So I don't need to throw it for her, but the point is that I want her to know that I need her to be obedient and give me the toy. So if God asks us to give something up, you know, it's important that, you know, we obedient and give it up. And again, he's going to bless our life with other things. But my point is that I'm telling her, like, I'm not going to take this from you, you know, but I just need you to be willing to give it up too. That's an important thing, you know. Are we willing to, when Jesus says, pick up your cross and follow me, what are you willing to give up, you know, in your life? Because it does require you to give up things. But there's so many blessings that come with that. And so what you gain with him by giving up those things in your life that weren't serving you is amazing. Good girl, Polly. Good girl. This is important that you have these tools on the dogs when you're testing them around toys and bones before you allow them to just have these resources around kids. Or around, you know, your family, even around you. Without, otherwise you have no way to keep yourself safe if the dog has an issue with a resource, a toy, a bone. So Polly out. So I'm just giving her a little bit of pressure, and see how she backed off there and looked away? That was wonderful. But I don't pick up the toy or the bone, right, until the dog has backed off mentally. Otherwise, I would be putting my fingers, right, in danger, your face, things like that, you know, and so you'd be putting yourself in danger by doing that. So you get them to back off the toy and or the bone, and then give it back to them. So we're going to go over this with a bone as well, so you can see that. Now we're moving to the out and leave it portion of using this and transferring it to bones. High value resources. So this is a huge problem that we see, you know, with dogs. Once they get a high value resource, then they have trouble giving it up, you know, and there can be fights with other dogs, or they become, you know, resource guarding around humans, you know, and just making really bad decisions. So I have a couple of antler chews here, and so this is where it becomes important again. So leave it, I mean, probably sit. You know, if I want to, if I don't want her to get the resource, but then when I give it, after I give it to her, then we're going to demonstrate the out with it. So, okay. And I can also just put it down here, you know. And so obviously she knows if I'm putting it down that here you go, like you can have the resource. Again, making sure you can touch the dog. You got an itch? Oh no, there's a bone. So making sure you can touch the dog when she's got a resource. But I wouldn't do this to a dog if I did not have a leash on them. This is how I kept myself safe. Most of my cases were human and dog aggressive. And so again, it was a come to Jesus on the consultation, the training worked, or the dog oftentimes wouldn't survive. And so it's how I kept myself safe, always having a leash. So it is very important, you know, to be able to use a leash to communicate, you know. I used to say, dog trainers don't have magic wands, we have leashes, but then I learned about magic. And so, and that God doesn't want us messing with magic. So anyway, she's got the resource, and so what I'm saying is a communication tool here. And here she goes, she's eating the bone, and I'm gonna say, Polly out, and so now she has her paw on the bone here, and I'm gonna make sure, you know, that you know, I have the leash here. She's just trying to stop me here, but I know already that she's not aggressive over this. She's just very pushy. And so, but if this was another dog, I might not take that the bone unless she moved her hand off of there. And so here you go. So I'm just giving it right back to her, letting her know that I'm not taking it from her forever. That's not my intention, is to deprive her. In terms of, if you got to take a bone away from the dog, you need them to back off of it. And so if it's a dog that has resource guarding issues and they've had a bite history, you make them back off that bone completely. And so Polly out. So in that case, I would make the dog move away, and I would put myself in between that resource and the dog. I would put myself in between there. because when you go to pick that up, that can be so dangerous if you have a dog that has a bite history. So Polly does not, so she's an easier demo dog.